Let's talk about parabens in skincare. So I'm a cosmetic chemist and I was having a conversation yesterday with this user in the comments of one of my videos. Basically, I had mentioned that, in my opinion, parabens are totally safe in skincare products. Basically, there's been a lot of fear-mongering over the fact that parabens could be causing hormone disruption when applied to skin, but a lot of scientists will agree that the conditions that were basically imposed by the study were completely irrelevant to cosmetic application and use levels. So she makes a good point that a whole continent isn't going to ban a substance just based on misinterpreted data, but they didn't. They didn't ban parabens. They did limit the use level of butyl and propylparaben in a product, but they did determine that these were totally safe when used below this level. And the way they determined the 0.19% was looking at like worst case scenario of like if you're applying 10 to 12 products a day and if 3.4% of it is actually getting absorbed by your bloodstream, which is an overestimate for sure. Sorry, I meant 3.7. So they did limit the use of butyl and propylparaben, which are the only ones I've ever really seen in cosmetic products anyway. But they did ban 5 of them. I'll give you that. They did ban some, not all though. But these were not banned because they were found to be dangerous. They were banned because they had a lack of data that they could use to evaluate human risk. It's kind of like a guilty till proven innocent thing. But let's take it a step further and look at some of the studies that have been done surrounding parabens and endocrine disruption. This is the one from 1998 that I think people tend to refer to most often. But basically it's looking at the ability of butylparaben to mimic the effects of estradiol and compete for the binding site on the estrogen receptor. When people reference this study, they typically only mention the part in yellow, that butylparaben was competing with estradiol for the binding site on the estrogen receptor. They fail to mention a couple things. First of all, the first one was an in vitro test, and they found that butylparaben was still 10,000 times less potent than naturally occurring estradiol at binding to that receptor. And that was in vitro. In vitro studies fail to account for all the other enzymes and compounds and processes in our body that are going to interact with whatever's going on right here in vitro. Then there was another study where they actually administered it subcutaneously, or they injected it into skin. And by the way, these are solutions of pure paraben, like 100%. And even then they found that butylparaben was about 100,000 times less potent than naturally occurring estradiol when injected. And when we put something on our skin, it does not get absorbed at 100%. In fact, chemists have to work really hard to create delivery systems to get stuff past our skin's barrier. When the EU was actually determining what levels would be safe in cosmetics, they considered that about 3.7% of what was getting applied would get absorbed. So going back to this, if we inject a 100% solution under the skin of a rat, first of all, that's another thing. Rats and humans are not the same. But if you inject a 100% solution of parabens in rats, it's still 100,000 times less potent than a naturally occurring hormone. Parabens are only used in cosmetics up to like 0.5%. And then we're liberally estimating that 3.7% is getting absorbed. In 2007, they did do a study on humans where they were looking at topical application of a product containing parabens. It was full body application and the products contained 2% parabens. I've never seen a product contain more than 0.5%, by the way. But even at that level, they found that there was really no endocrine disruption. The Cosmetic Ingredient Review Board estimates that a person could use 1,000 milligrams of cosmetic product per kilo a day, considering maximum paraben level in product and maximum dermal absorption, without having any adverse effects on the endocrine system. For me, that's roughly 70 grams of product.